thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, I think it's a little bit of a mix of business and life with Lori Highby, CEO and and founder of Keystone Click, is going to be joining us. Lori, thank you so much for being on the show.
Greg, I'm so excited to be here with you. It's fun to catch up and talk about AI and cooking and all those fun things.
AI and cooking, it just goes together, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, like peanut butter and jelly, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so like I mentioned, Lori, I've known Lori for I don't know, 5-6 years or
hmm
so, something like that. Founder of Keystone Click. Um, Always done great work in digital marketing. You're a national speaker. You got your no nonsense approach to digital strategy. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Lori? Give us some more of your background and your personal journey, and then we'll get into how to use AI to create, think, and lead.
Yeah, for sure. I've always been on the agency side of marketing. I worked at two other marketing agencies prior to starting Keystone Click in 2008, which is so weird to say because I was just thinking about this like, wow, 2 years, it's 20 years. I don't feel like I'm that
Wow.
old yet to have actually worked in one job for 20 years. But anyways,
Right.
apparently that's the reality of things. Yeah, I started out at a web development shop and then I went to more of a traditional agency where I was like buying outdoor radio, print, that kind of work. And I found that the digital stuff was so fascinating to me. It's constantly changing. There's something new. You can really truly measure the activity around that. And so when I decided to start Keystone Click, I went digital. I started strictly as websites, but having that marketing background, people would be like, how do I show up on Google? Or what do I do with this Facebook thing? And I would just tell them what to do, not even thinking that they were asking me so that I could do it for them. That's, my young ignorant self. Until someone's like, well, can you do it for me? I'm like, oh yeah, I can. Okay. And then it opened the door to so many more opportunities within the business.
Yeah. So bring us up to current day. I mean, you and I were talking before the show about just how AI has just exploded really on the scene. And I mean, you know, I don't know how many years ago it was when I kind of remember when Chat GPT came out and everybody was like, wow, what is this? And it's really just kept rolling on, and new discoveries, it feels like, every day with everybody. But tell me how you've kind of transitioned a little bit more into really starting to provide more services around AI.
Yeah, so I actually started researching AI before the launch of ChatGPT, which was November of 2022, was when it was kind of released to the general public. So I attended a conference and heard Paul Reitzer speak, who is the founder of the Marketing AI Institute and Smarter X. And he was kind of on the AI train way before any of us were. But when I heard him speak, it was just like exploding brain everywhere, going, this is fascinating. I need to understand what's happening. So I started, paying attention to what he was talking about, listening to his podcast, attending his conferences, dabbling in some of the tools. So there were, paid software tools that had AI embedded in them. So we were using some of those and just kind of dabbling and testing in it. And then obviously when ChatGPT was made public and available free for the world to explore and play with, is when I really kind of crunched down and got serious about it. And just I'm a natural curious person, so I love to learn new things and I love to teach what I'm learning to other people.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit now, I mean, about the cookbook and why you actually did this, use the AI of the cookbook. And it seems like it's kind of become a framework and a way for you to teach people about AI. Is that kind of how it evolved?
Yeah, I mean, so here it is. It's let's see. Hey, ChatGPT, what's for dinner? So early on, I started using ChatGPT specifically. I mean, granted, everything in the book can be aligned to any AI platform or LLM tool. But I was using it for recipes and I was using it for meal planning. And then, if I found a recipe online and I was missing an ingredient, I would just say, hey, what's a good alternative? Or this is what I've got.
Yeah.
And the more that I was using it, I started collecting the recipes that I'm like, wow, this is really good. And the light bulb went off in my head because I've been speaking on the topic of AI for the last 3 years now, and sometimes I'm coming back to the same conferences and speaking to same audiences, and I'm still hearing people come up to me going, "I still haven't, I still haven't tried it yet." And I'm like, "Why not?" So I decided, this is an easy common ground, right? It's a very easy entry point. Everyone has some experience cooking, right, or being in the kitchen. It's a big question that everyone has. What's for dinner? So let's combine something that is already a level of comfort with something that's uncomfortable and try to make it an easy entry point. So I aggregated some of my top recipes, put them in the book, but the front half of the book is really kind of the educational side of things. And basically, every single recipe in the book includes the prompt I use to get it, um, as well as some prompting tips, because really the recipes should be a foundation and a starting point and open up the door for your creativity to flourish.
Now that's really intriguing. I just want to go down the cooking path here for a second because, um, so in my house we love to cook. Okay, we're foodies here,
Hmm.
and now my wife Sharon is an amazing cook and a natural talent. Like, she'll taste something like that needs a little bit of this,
Hmm.
and she's going strictly off of her kind of her gut feel.
Sure.
She'll look at recipes, of course, but then she'll modify. She'll do her own thing. That scares the hell out of me. I'm like, give me the recipe, otherwise
Yeah,
I'm gonna
sure.
blow this
Yep,
thing up.
yep,
And I like, so in our dynamic, I'm the sous chef. I'm chopping for her and doing whatever she says,
yep.
and clean as you go and keeping the kitchen
Our
tidy. But
households sound very similar, by the way.
okay, which role are you?
Oh, I'm the wifey. I'm the one that can like, oh, that needs a little bit more salt or more acid or whatever. And my
Okay.
husband is just tell me the job to do. Yep.
Um, so in that light, tell me a bit about how you think Chat GPT maybe helps both parties, both types of cooks in that scenario.
Yeah, so I love this question. When I'm one of the problems that I have with my kind of more fluid cooking style is I'll make a dish and my husband will say, "That was awesome, make that again." And I can't necessarily replicate it because I partially winged it. And that's why I like to say, like, the recipe is the foundation, and then you tweak the way that you want it to, which doesn't necessarily work so much on the baking side, but definitely more on the cooking side. So, what I have done though is with ChatGPT, I'll just kind of plug in what I did
Mm,
throughout the process. So, like, here's the foundational recipe. I'm like, oh, you know what? I ended up doubling the garlic and I added more butter, and I just kind of throw these things in. And then I ask it, like, okay, now create that final output recipe, and then it'll do that, and I always ask it to do it in a document form, a Google Doc or whatnot, so that I can easily access it in the future, because I'm sure you've experienced sometimes it's hard to find your old threads, right? They haven't really
oh yeah.
perfected the categorizing and organizing of that just yet. So I always export the final recipe, and save it in a Google Doc for myself. So I think from that creative outlet, that's great. But also for more the instruction directive, like you prefer, the beauty of ChatGPT or any AI tool when you're creating recipes, sometimes it's like, oh, well, cut the fennel into these slices, right? And you're like, well, I've never actually cut fennel before. So give me some step-by-step
Yeah.
instructions on how to properly do this. So you can actually go deeper and ask for clarification while using these tools to help you really perfect that recipe. So, for example, I was making a caribou roast this past weekend, and that's
Whoa.
it's something I've not really worked with before. Right? We have a friend that's a big hunter, and he gives us some meats every once in a while, which is
Okay.
great. And so I was uncertain about the the positioning of it in the pot, and before I put it in the oven. And so I just took a picture of it, and I'm like, does this look right? So it was even interesting. You can take a picture of the
Yeah.
food and be like, okay, it should be not fully drenched, but just like ladle some of the liquid on it. And so it's just really interesting how it can help you be a better cook. But also, as someone who prefers that creative route, it can help you document the process of your creativity so that you can try to replicate it again in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we'll move on from this in a second, but I just have one more question about just the logistics of cooking with AI. Now, do you use the voice interactive and do you speak to it, or are
Yep,
you sitting typing?
both.
Okay.
It depends on where I'm at in the kitchen, but if I've got a lot going on, so I have an iPad mounted to the wall in the kitchen, so it's really easy for me to have the ChatGPT up, and I can easily just hit it with my knuckle if my hands are full, and just quickly like, okay, I'm out of this ingredient. What are three good alternatives to use instead? And yeah, it's been great. It's like a partner in the kitchen, or having like your own personal trained chef to some extent in the kitchen with you.
Yeah, yeah. Good thing it can't chop, otherwise I'd probably be out of there. But um, do you set the voice like to Julia Child or something?
I
You
haven't
know,
done that, no.
save the giblets.
I haven't quite done that yet.
Okay. So let's move on from this. I think it's such a great entry point that you've given people and a great idea to just get people, warmed up to AI and start to use it. Let's talk about how you apply some of your AI principles through this kind of cookbook framework.
Yeah. So are you referring to the AI alignment model a bit
Yeah.
here? Yeah. So the AI alignment model is something that I created when it comes to how you can leverage AI in your business, and how Keystone Click supports businesses with AI. So at Keystone Click, we're big believers in understanding the customer journey, and everything evolves. And I'm sure you know this, Greg. Everything you do evolves around the customer journey. So the AI alignment model is to really help you support that customer journey. And there's three specific buckets of it. It's, well, how you're using AI, which is, what you're doing impacts the customer journey, but also teaching individuals the best practices, putting those guardrails in space, creating efficiencies across the line. So that's the fun stuff, like teaching, prompting, and whatnot. How you show up in AI is something I find a lot of businesses aren't necessarily paying a lot of attention to right now. But it's, if you're using an LLM, ChatGPT, for the context here, to do research on a potential new solution for whatever it is, you want to make sure that your brand, your business is the one that's showing up that most directly aligns with it. So, unlike Google, that we're all familiar with typing in something into the search engine and getting hundreds of results, AI could come back with, one result, or hey, here's the top 5 recommendations I have for you. So we're helping businesses and brands show up properly within the AI tools, the LLMs. And there's a whole framework around that. And the third bucket is the customer experience associated with AI. So it's really interesting. I've personally had these bad experiences. Recently, I was on the hunt for a new vehicle. I started with ChatGPT, and I mapped out, here are all the things that are important to me. What do you recommend? Right? Why not start there?
Right.
Great. What's available within this price range in a 50-mile radius of where I live? Okay. So it gave me a couple recommendations. I pinpointed it. There's a dealership not far from my house. The link was right to the exact vehicle. I'm like, this is amazing. I love this. I clicked that. I was like, I'm interested. And then all of a sudden, I have like 10 emails in my inbox from three different people. I started replying to one, and then about six emails back and forth, I realized this is an automated AI agent. And it's like absolutely terrible experience that I had. Like I was ready to just test
Oh,
drive and go.
they're in cahoots. It sounds
Yeah.
like they're in cahoots,
Well,
ChatGPT with the AI agent.
it's the agent the messaging was off, it was inconsistent. I was asking questions, the questions were not the answers were not coming through providing value. And eventually I got an email saying, hey, sorry, that was our automated system. And it was just, it turned me off because it was so disruptive to my buying process that I actually I went a different path.
Wow.
But I share that story because I find a lot of businesses are just kind of jumping in the deep end, implementing these systems to create automations and efficiencies. It's on their side of the business, but they're not paying attention to the impact it has on the entire customer journey, and the
Yeah.
and understanding the expectation of the customer has is extremely important, and really taking the time to slowly implement as opposed to let's just set it up and set it and forget it, which is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So those are the three buckets that we look at with the AI alignment model.
That's great. I like that. I think, and I want to get your reaction to this. Andy Crestadine is a really smart guy, friend of mine, and he was talking about, and he's always been talking about this with AI, is like, don't use it as an efficiency tool. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not out of the gates, but
Yep.
use it to make yourself better and make everything better. And I know, like, just from a writing content perspective, I haven't cut any. I'm not faster with it, maybe, but I sure am better with it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do some gap analysis, find out where I'm wrong. I can go through in great depth, analyze different parts of the content. Are you finding that with your clients and what you're doing, you're seeing more gains on the efficiency side or on the quality side? Where do you put your focus?
I would lean more towards quality. There's some components of efficiency, and I know we were kind of dabbling in this conversation before you went live. Um, what's interesting with efficiency and any sort of automation with AI is you have to have a defined process, right? And then you're building the system that says kind of the if then scenarios. If this happens, then execute this, right? The challenge that I'm finding when it comes to the efficiency of these tools is that the tools are constantly changing. So if
Hmm.
you build the process and the framework, you have to stay on top of it because we see this like the AIs are constantly battling to be the best. One could be working better today than the other, and vice versa.
Hmm.
Um, where if you're building your system and your model and automations and processes around one specific tool and setup, and then next week their whole system has changed, you have to start all over again and reinvent the wheel or continue to test. And so as far as efficiency, I feel like we haven't totally fleshed that out yet because these models are constantly evolving.
One of the points we wanted to talk about was how to simplify AI, and I think right there is kind of what you're talking about. That's where a lot of the complexity comes in with the change and things like that. But how do you simplify AI so it's more of a practical tool and not so overwhelming?
Yeah, I think where people get confused about AI is that those letters are being used to define multiple things, right? Like the AI is, we can use it to prompt and get an output. That's the creating the content. There's AI that's built into software that we're using. So, we're a Google shop and Gemini is integrated into our tools. And so we can kind of create some efficiencies when leveraging these tools. Then there's AI that will automatically do stuff, and that's like the AI agent. So I think first and foremost, we need clarity on defining AI into its different segments. And I know there's way more defined uses of AI beyond what I just shared. But simplicity, I would say, and I'm going to speak from the perspective of like just try it if you haven't used it, is to just start and challenge the tool. So one of the things that I preach to my team and whenever I speak to audiences on AI is every single task in my to-do list, I start with how can AI help me do this? You know, and whether it's from an efficiency or from a quality standpoint, is there a way that AI can help me do this better? And that's again part of where I embedded that into my personal life with the cooking. You know, how can AI make my life easier? Well, planning menus now so much easier, right? I love that it'll create a grocery list for me. I've trained it on what I normally have in my house and what I don't. It'll map out the grocery list based on what aisle in the grocery store. There's just that's
Wow.
efficiency. So,
Yeah. So let's talk just a little bit about maybe we can just talk a little bit about your preference for tools. You mentioned Gemini, and we talked Chat GPT, and then there's a lot of people just saying, "Hey, man, just get over to Claude."
mhm.
Where do you sit with the different tools?
I jump between all of them. I use Claude. I pay for Claude. I pay for Gemini. I pay for ChatGPT. And I know some. I mean, Gemini is because it's part of our Google ecosystem. Um, but they're all constantly changing, and I find it's good to play them off of each other a little bit. I'll even be like, "Hey, chat, this is what Claude said about this," and because they all functioning a little bit differently. I lean heavier into chat, and that's only because it really, really knows me, the way I think, the way I process information. But I really like Claude when it comes to bigger, like strategic frameworking.
Hmm.
Um, is something that I have found to be really supportive and helpful there. And Gemini just works really nicely because it's already connected to our Google Workspace. So I can go into my Google Drive, type a couple things, and like I was perfect example. I was kind of trying to audit our core offerings and price points, and it like all of our proposals are in there. So I just said, give me a spreadsheet that summarizes our itemized deliverables for the last 2 years. And that was amazing. You know how long
Wow.
that would have taken me to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I think, there isn't one tool to do all the things. I think it's find the tool that most closely aligns with the thing you're trying to do.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Claude, and Claude Code I think, is where I hear a lot of chatter these days. And, we were talking before the show too about, you feel like you're, you've learned a lot about AI, and you're ahead of some people, but then there's other people who are like light years ahead of
Oh,
you.
yeah.
But a big thing I hear more about is vibe coding. A lot of people are already doing a lot of vibe coding, but your background is as a web developer. That's part of your business and building websites. And you made a comment about the code is not so hot that you develop, or some of it. Maybe you could
Sure.
talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
So I completed a course through MIT about AI agents, and one of the segments there was dedicated to vibe coding. So I did some testing of that before I had my team start using it. Um, the vibe coding I think has been really great for identifying issues within code and resolving it, but also I advocate to my team to not just trust it, right? I'm always a big believer, and find three solutions to the problem because the first one isn't always the right solution. But we need to think about this one thing that we're going to change. We're just trusting the technology is accurate. Like, what is the impact it's going to have on the other components of the site or the workflows that we have built? That's one. Two, the quality of the information in equals the quality of the information out. So when we are doing vibe coding from like a design concepting stage for like a homepage design, what I have found, which has been really interesting, is we'll put in the creative brief, the scope, get some initial concepts, but then the tools themselves, if we're like, hey, give us three versions of it, they're very similar versions. They're not, where back in the day, if we would design three different homepage concepts, we'd have three completely different approaches. So what we started doing is using, Claude, Gemini, Chat, because they all take completely different approaches to
Oh,
have three
interesting.
different concepts, as opposed to like, hey Claude, give us three different versions of this.
Wow.
But then when you go from design to code, that code is not accurate yet either, right? It's a version of the design. Slow, it's close to it, but it's not exactly, a mirrored match. So it's a good starting point, but I mean, I'm sure the evolution of the vibe coding technology will continue to improve over time. But I would still advocate for proceeding with caution versus like just copy and paste and publish. Just like anything with AI right now, right? I'm a big human AI human advocate, meaning human is putting the information in, the AI is generating it, and then human is doing quality control and validating and confirming the information before any sort of publishing is taking place.
Yeah, I like that human AI human. Talk to me a little bit because I mean that's kind of fascinating to me what you just said about having the the three different AI models you said there come up with different concepts. How has it changed your creative process? Are you producing things differently now? How are you with your process?
Yeah, so I'd say it's we're still very early stages with this, right? We haven't really defined this is the new process, and I spoke to that a little bit because it's constantly evolving and it's more experimenting to some extent as well. And we're transparent with the clients that we're doing this with, and I think that's really important. But it goes to the quality of the information in. So we're almost mapping out visually with words what we're anticipating or we'd like to see, because you can't just be like, here's a manufacturing company, design a homepage for them, right? Like you really need to write a solid creative brief, or and even a technical brief to some extent, so it understands the functionality that's intended, to at least get that initial idea. And if we don't like it, which has happened, one of my team members is working on, we're redoing the LoriHighby.com website to kind of look like the book a little bit more. But anyways, I'm like, do all the experimenting with my site, right? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
definitely open to that. Um, and she's like, I'm not loving any of the outputs. I'm like, well, then if it's not working, it's not working. But I appreciate the experimenting. So I think it's a matter of time, but also I want to dig in deeper and like, let's look at the prompts that you used and the information you provided it, and really kind of reverse engineer this and figure out how could we get to that stage. So what going to advocate is when we get to that final result, again, reverse engineer through AI, like this was the final result, what prompt would you have recommended we enter in to get this type of final outcome?
yeah. I find, and I don't know if you experience this, but what I'm finding is there's still that little magical moment of creativity that only humans seems like we can produce. And I don't know when it always happens, right? It's kind of unpredictable when that's
Mm-hmm.
going to drop out of the sky. And sometimes I might go into the content creation with the idea that
Yep.
came to me that morning in the shower or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Or you might go in with writer's block or whatever, you're stuck, and the AI can give you ideas that just kind of dislodge that, and suddenly you see it. Are
Yeah.
you how is that? Are you finding that kind of a similar experience?
Yeah, I found both of them. So you see that, like, I post a weekly article on LinkedIn. I really focus heavy on education, and the bulk of it is like random ideas that come to me. Like you said, it's a shower idea. So
Yeah.
I think about one that I did recently. I worked at J.C. Penney's when I was in high school or college, and like it was a jewelry counter, cut, clarity, whatever, the four C's of a diamond, right? And I'm like, oh, I bet I can convert this to a website, right? So
Yeah.
that just turned into a really fun article, and I use chat to like refine it and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I get weird ideas and I turn them into content, but sometimes I get stuck. And so what I did once, I said I gave it a deep research project stating, you understand, like, here's our core deliverables and offerings and our audience. Do a deep research project on what are the top 10 topics being discussed right now online related to these things. And then that's where it came back with 10 ideas for topics for me to kind of spin off of further. I think I've used two of them so far, but at least it gave me, I was stuck, and I had to give it clear instruction on the type of
Yeah.
research to do, but
Hmm.
now it helped me kind of, oh, I like this. Now I can go deeper into my own version of this.
Yeah. No, I like that. Well, Laurie, we already burned through our half hour here. We could probably keep going, but you've got work to do. You've got clients to help. If someone wants to work with you, interested in learning more about AI, has some digital marketing needs, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm very active on LinkedIn, as I shared, so definitely connect with me there. KeystoneClick.com has information on our website about our offerings related to the AI implementation and support, but also of our digital marketing services. And if you're interested in the book, Hey ChatGPT, What's for Dinner? It is available on Amazon.
That's awesome. Laurie, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I loved the insights you shared with us today.
Yeah, I love being here. Thanks so much, Greg.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks to everyone for joining us on another edition of Thought Leaders Live.